This is something that students tend to be quite familiar with because you have experience, whether you realize it or not, knowing where certain types of businesses are located. So we'll go through this uh, reasonably quickly. We're going to talk about some factors that affect where location is. Where you locate, like a hotel, is very different than where you locate a steel mill. We're also going to calculate some labor productivity. We're going to apply the factor rating method, and we're going to use the center of gravity method. So those learning objective 3 and 4 will be part of your Excel assignments. Locations are now dealt with on a global basis. There is a video that you can look at with regards to how the Hard Rock Hotel decides where they're going to build their next Hard Rock Hotel. And they start on a global basis, and then they have criteria or factors about, say they want it in a growing market, they want it in a place where they can get proper staffing, that there is proper infrastructure for simple things like electricity and water and some of the other factors that are important. Now, these decisions are, as you can see, very infrequent, and they tend to be for longer periods of time. Think about most of you. When you make a decision to move, you don't, it's a big deal or big decision most of the time, and you don't move that frequently. Maybe you do, but most people don't tend to move very often at all. So they're long-term decisions. Again, they're infrequent. You have to consider your fixed and your variable costs. You have the cost of the resources, political, economic, weather, all kinds of factors go into where a location should be. So you can see some of where the country is. You have to deal with certain countries have very stable governments and are less corrupt than other parts of the world. The educational background of the workforce, the size of the workforce. When Amazon was looking to put a second headquarters, there was a criteria that they had to have a city that had a population of at least 1 million people. So they'd have like an international airport and the rail systems and things along that line that go along with having a major city or major location. That was part of their criteria. Even internationally, you have to pay attention to exchange rates. Years ago, the Japanese auto manufacturers, because they got hit very hard in the 1990s with exchange rates, they have most of their production to North America. In fact, they make as many vehicles in North America as they sell in North America. So technically, they're not really an import anymore. And here's, we'll go through an example. This is one of the factor rating method. It's very similar, and mathematically it's the same as how you calculate your grade for the course. You take the weight of the assessment and you multiply it by your score, and then you total them up. So we're going to do that in the examples using Excel and find out which one is the best or potentially the best, help to filter. Because rarely is something the best, the best, the best. Like that's nice and simple. And you can use these kind of methodologies for even deciding which job should you take. One job pays a little bit more. The other one job has an extra week of vacation. One job requires you to drive across town. The other one is like 5 blocks from where you currently live. A lot of different factors. What you get to do in the job, what kind of industry it's in, etc. So here's the factor weighting method. You've got the 5 factors. You've got the weights. Those will be given to you. You'll even be given the scores, and you simply have to calculate. So you multiply the weight times the score, and you do that for all 5 factors, and you can see slight preference for for France over Denmark. The higher score is better. And we'll use the software. You can do this by hand if you prefer. You don't have to use the software. So France is better. by a slight bit than Denmark, but it's very close. So there may be some other things that are hard to quantify, like quality of life kind of things. All right. So break-even analysis we've talked about earlier in the course, or depending which course you've taken. It's there will be fixed and variable costs. You want a lower break-even point. So you can see in this particular case, depends on the volumes between North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, and Timmins. At low volumes, Timmins is best. At a more intermediate volume, Sault Ste. Marie is best. And then at high volumes, North Bay is best above 2,500 units. The center of gravity method is actually something you could use for determining where you should live or where a business should locate a warehouse or an office, depending on where their customers are located and how frequently they go and visit that customer. So shipments. That is one of the reasons why Calgary is a hub. Calgary is actually an inland hub. And because of its geographical location for Western Canada, like Walmart serves all of the prairies and the Northwest Territories from their warehouse or their warehouses that are located in Calgary. And they have one near the airport on the corner of Barlow and McKnight. They also have a couple out by Cross Iron Mills. The Amazon warehouse is out by Cross Iron Mills Mall. And it's because Calgary has rail, roads, air, things along that line, and the people to be able to support it. So don't worry too much about these formulas. The software will just do that for you. It's a lot easier than what it looks like on the screen. So in this particular case, to find the x coordinate, you take the x value, which is 30, and you multiply it by the number of containers. So this is like a weighted average. Is what it's calculating. The denominator for the x coordinate is simply the total number of containers. So the numerator part is the x value, like an xy coordinate, and you multiply by the weight. So an x coordinate of 30 on your xy graph times a weight of 2,000. And you do that and total it up, and you get the x coordinate is 66.7, the y coordinate is 93.3, and that's where you should locate your facility. So you can see in a much nicer, or probably easier to understand graph with the bubbles, you can see that you have these 4 locations or 4 places you would ship to. And in this case, they're department stores. Where should you have the warehouse that would minimize the distance between the 4? Based on the fact that certain department stores have higher volumes than others. So if you were to use this on a personal basis, and let's say there was two places you would go to on a regular basis. One would be work and one would be school. Where should you live? Now you go to school, say 5 days a week, and you go to work, say 4 days a week. And you would factor that into where you should locate your apartment. There's other factors too, especially if you're living with somebody, that where do they go to work, other places you'd want to visit, like a park or whatever the case may be, and you can factor that all in. And that's the end of chapter number 8.